Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Crypto Cannaverse. We're building an international community for visionary entrepreneurs at the crossroads of Christ, crypto, cannabis, and CPAs. Our mission? To grow, educate, and inspire within these controversial 4Cs. No matter your beliefs, you're welcome here. We celebrate diversity. And guiding us through this wild, wonderful journey are our dynamic host, Crystal Wampler, the glue that holds us together, and our spiritual powerhouse, Alan Lau. Welcome, Alan. How's it going?
Going good and going great. The weather is a little gloomy here in Sacramento, California. We needed the rain, but doing fantastic and great. Thank you so much for everyone being here on our Crypto Cannabis show.
Thank you, Alan. Alan, you have our Bible verse for today. What is it? I'm
I
excited to
do,
hear.
Crystal. This one came to me from you, and I was actually praying about it, meditating on it, and I was actually speaking about it with someone else. I think it was yesterday about when God blesses you with resources, you need to be kind and generous to help others that are in need. So today's Bible verse comes from Proverbs 19:17, and it says, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done." So Proverbs is a book in the Bible. It's about wisdom, right? This proverb emphasizes the virtue of kindness and generosity, suggesting that helping those in need is not only a compassionate act, but also a form of lending to the divine. It speaks to the idea, the act of charity, and ultimately rewarded through spiritual fulfillment and divine blessing. So giving back to your community, giving back to your community, your church, finding ways not only from a monetary standpoint, it could be time, it could be helping an organization, but act of kindness and generosity can be shown in many different ways. So that's what I got out of the Bible verse today from Proverbs 19:17.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Alan. We greatly appreciate you, telling us about your thoughts and doing research on the Bible verse that we choose. So I appreciate that. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to have our thought leader panelists introduce themselves to everyone out there. So let's go ahead and start with Mr. Anthony Fino.
Hi, my name is Anthony Fino. I am an entrepreneur for a couple of decades, and I've been in the cannabis industry since 2017 as an investor and an operator. And we're looking to aggressively expand over the next few years along the Eastern Seaboard.
Thank you, Anthony. Let's move on down to Mr. Tom Fordham.
Hello, I'm Tom Fordham. I am a crypto consultant. I've been very passionate in crypto since 2016. I have a couple of distinct missions. One of those missions is helping individuals with their crypto, basically their portfolios and whatnot. But more importantly, I'm also now starting to focus on more on the entrepreneurial side of helping small businesses, startups, and so forth, trying to figure out how to integrate crypto into their business, and things like everything from financial systems to even just the simplistic things of, oh, I have to do a tax return. So all of those things have become kind of my passion. And back to today's Bible verse, I mean, I absolutely try to help people all over the place. It's just crypto generates a need, and so I try to fill that as much as I can.
That's wonderful. Where are you calling from, Tom?
I am located in central Pennsylvania, right outside Harrisburg, PA, which has become apparently a pretty big cannabis. I have dispensaries now literally on every corner. So it's become a big thing. I actually have a growing facility that just sprouted about 2 miles from my house. So lights out, 24 hours a day adventure. It's actually quite a thing. It's actually huge.
Wonderful. Thank you for introducing yourself and being here today. Let's go on over to Matt Evans. Welcome.
Thanks, Crystal. Thanks for having us. Matt Evans out of Lake St. Louis, Missouri. We focus on tax planning for business owners, whether it be crypto, any area, we help them on the tax planning side. I'd say my passion, it lies in, we run a inner city bow hunting ministry for inner city kids, and we teach them how to hunt, and then we eventually take them on a hunt. And so it's pretty rewarding. Most of the kids haven't been out of the city, so appreciate you having me, Crystal.
That is really interesting. Where are you calling from?
Lake St. Louis, Missouri.
Missouri. So bow hunting, what kind of hunting do you take the kids to do?
Whenever we can get them, we do whatever season it is. So it may not be the most ideal, but honestly, they just
Just to get out.
they don't care one bit. The first one what we did was turkey, and if anyone hunts, you know it's very hard to bow hunt with turkeys. But
Yes, it is.
they just loved 9 of the 10 of them have never been even on farmland, and so they just love being there. So that was the rewarding part, was just the experience.
That's amazing. You just gave me chills thinking about it. Are you guys ever looking for, sponsors, funding, things like that for your program?
Yeah, we were invited up to Arizona, and so I mean, my need right now, if anyone knows, we're trying to figure. I don't know anything about like hats or like shirts. I always tell people I'm blessed to know people I should never know, and I have people that could sell hats. I just don't know where to start. The plan is to figure out how to find these hats wherever we can, put the logo on them. The bow hunters and the hunters in general have just been gravitating towards helping these kids. It's been amazing. If anyone has connections to people that are in the clothing or hat world, I would love a connection there.
Wonderful. I think Anthony can probably help you out with that. I know a few people as well, and Alan, so we'll put our resources together and see what we can do. Let's go on over to Mr. Dean. How's it going, sir?
Howdy, glorious Friday to y'all. Thanks for having me on, Crystal, Alan. Appreciate y'all putting this on. Today in sunny Denver, Colorado. So I'm a technology broker, OTG Consulting, and I always, my only real goal is to leave you better than I found you, without regard to whether or not we do business. And what I mean by that is, I certainly help businesses with their technology, right? Voice, connectivity, security, mobility, all the things. But if there's a need there, I can help, and so be it. But if I can help in any other way, I'm happy to. Matt, I might know some folks too. I think there's lots of connectivity on this call with folks with gear, but whatever I can do to help, happy to do so. But yeah, if you need help with tech, if it's not working the way you'd like it, or you have a migration or something going on, give me a shout and I can help get you squared away.
Thanks, Dean. What's your sweet spot? What kind of companies are you looking for?
Every business needs technology. And so instead of trying to find a client of this size or in that vertical, I usually will just ask folks, do you have a project going on that you need help with, or is there, some sort of tech that's a problem in your life? I can help solve that, right? I do all that legwork and bring the right answers to the table. Most people will click, to chat or ask the Google, and then they get sold to. And it results in, a mismatch of capability with requirement. And I curate that experience for my clients to make sure they truly get what they need, but bring them options. We usually save them, about 15 to 30% on what they'd ordinarily do on their own.
That's wonderful. Technology is always changing, and it's so hard to keep up with it. So you're kind of like Dean, the tech angel. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Clayton, would you mind taking a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Clayton Cruz, and I am an attorney primarily in the Web3 crypto space. And my kind of target area is privacy and asset protection planning for ultra high net worth individuals in the Web3 crypto space.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Alan, everybody knows you, but why don't you go ahead and take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Alan Lau. I was born in Hong Kong, raised in California. I took my studies at University of California, Davis as an economist, economy and communication. I
Go
spent,
Aggies.
say what?
Go Aggies.
Go Aggies. That's right. University of California, Davis. Go Aggies.
Sorry.
It's okay. I didn't hear you, Dean.
Yeah.
Go Aggies. Yes, that's where I graduated. In economics and communication, I spent most of my career at a local private bank, providing wealth management services for about 16 years. In insurance, lending, banking, trust and fiduciary services. Those are my cornerstones of my experience in my career. And now I'm with Crypto Cannabis, bringing on cryptocurrency. I love the technology. The reason why is I truly believe that it's going to change the financial infrastructure and how we do banking, how we do lending, how do we process payments. So I can't wait to see how this will evolve. We're in the very early stages of this technology, and even my old colleagues are, messaging me, letting me know that they're just learning about the technology. So, so I truly believe this is going to be the future. Happy to be here. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you, Alan. So it's time to get to the man of the hour. And that's not my dog, Georgie. He is not the man of the hour, but he is my man. So today we're welcoming Jeff Livesey. Jeff's not your average CPA. With over 25 years crushing it in the public accounting industry, he's become a nationally recognized rock star, guiding companies through the ever-changing world of emerging markets. Since 2014, he's been a strategic partner to over 50 leading cannabis and hemp companies, including industry titans like GTI, Verano, and Ascend Wellness. Whether you're a vertically integrated business, MSO, public company, or international player, Jeff's got your back. He's an expert in assurance and business consulting, and he's passionate about helping define the gold standard in the industry. Through collaborations and financial institutions and state agencies, Jeff's making sure the cannabis and hemp space thrives. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks, Crystal. Not sure I deserve all that, by the way, but thank you. Yeah, I'm from Central Illinois. Grew up in kind of the corn and beans in the middle of Central Illinois, about 2.5, 3 hours north of Matt here in St. Louis, and about 2 hours south of Chicago. So a lot of row crops, and so agriculture was a nice in for me. I kind of fell into accounting, started out as just a business major, and my grandfather and father were all business owners and entrepreneurs. So I helped them run their businesses, understood managing risk, inventory, cash flow. So I kind of landed into public accounting at an early age and worked for many years on ag-based clients, obviously around row crops in the Midwest. Then took a little more diverse path, client with a global ag, a client of mine in global ag that invested in permanent crops. So your wine grapes, your tree nuts, palm oil, etc. And from that, learned different landscapes of indoor grow, outdoor grow, navigating different regulation in different countries, complex cap tables. And so that was kind of my personal background. Got back into public accounting, actually for a little more control of my life and actually work-life balance, which you probably don't hear a lot about public accounting, but it's actually true. So that was my journey myself. We at MHCPA here, we're in Champaign, Illinois, our main corporate office. If you do hear hammering, sawing, whatever, I apologize. Our contractors are still working on our new building today. It should have been done about a month and a half ago, but obviously with contractors, the delays, permits, etc., it happens. So there may be some background noise. I'll try to mute if it gets too bad, but thanks for having me. We are a traditional firm, about 42 years old, the firm, and we were focused on, your normal CPA practice in the local geography. When I joined them from RSM in 2015, started focusing more in not only my agriculture, but some emerging markets. And what better place than a brand new, industry like cannabis? I was already getting calls in 2014 to work in the space. We had some high net worth investors that were already clients that helped kind of push us into the space in Chicago. And so since then, we've become a boutique firm that's focused on industry specific specialization. And we work in about 22 states now.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. We're actually both from the Midwest. So I grew up in Indiana. It's the Bible Belt, also known as the Bible Belt. And I'm just kind of curious, what was it like going into the cannabis industry in the Bible Belt?
Well, early on, yeah, you got a lot of looks and suspect. I would say it was most of an issue internally at the firm because it's a partnership and you have multiple business partners. We're growing fast. There's vast difference of opinions, like you mentioned. I was lucky enough to join MH here with partners that were a little more forward thinking. But we were mixed group. I mean, some supported it, some did not. And until they realized that it's truly how it was being built, what were the purposes for bettering people's lives, looking at the medical space, understanding the industry, then it came online more with the rest of my employees, the rest of my partners, and we're able to grow it properly. But I'd say that first year was touch and go as far as support, both employees, family, community, and partnerships. So I got labeled like everybody else did with the stigma in 2014 and 15. And so, there was a lot of laughter and then questions wondering where this was going to go or if I would end up in jail or what was going to happen.
That's wild. Was there ever a point where your CPA firm had to accept cash as payment from a cannabis client?
It was definitely offered and suggested early on because early there wasn't too many banks. And in Illinois in 2015, we only had two state chartered banks that were taking it. So they pretty much had the market. The problem was, a lot of my clients started in Chicago. And they're obviously names you guys know today because all of them pretty much made it. Or were merged or sold. And so we still work with those guys. But I'm talking like some of my first meetings are you walk in and it is three entrepreneurs, couple business partners, investors, and a card table and chairs. And there is no accounting system. They have a license. They're saying, how do we help grow this? How do we start these SOPs, this accounting control system? How do we, they have the real estate, they're building out cultivation, but beyond that, they're setting up structure. And so we started with that, and it's been wild. I mean, most of the consulting we did was early on startup consulting. And from that, I think it started to grow business fast enough. The word caught on that some of that stigma kind of wore off pretty quick.
Yeah, most definitely. And once people started, learning about the medical benefits of cannabis and how it can really saving lives ultimately. There's so many benefits to it. I could go into it and talk about it all day. But it must have been really interesting going to these places and going into a room and seeing these cannabis, startups, start from basically their basement to growing into what? Can you kind of color that for us?
Yeah, I mean, we started out with pretty much clones or mother plants in trailers a lot of times, temporary trailers, and why the facilities were being built out. And We were lucky enough, based on our current clients and investors, that we identified early on some very successful cannabis companies all the way to today. So we were able to work with their talent, their backgrounds, along with ourselves and our expertise in ag and indoor grow and tax structure and everything else, that it was fascinating to see it go from a trailer to maybe a greenhouse, or maybe you retrofit a warehouse, or maybe, you know, and which ones work properly. I think I've seen every variation of a grow facility there ever was, because there's some that are extremely robotic, some with, you know, and they change constantly. Depends on the cultivation manager, becomes, you know, and so it's been a lot of change really rapidly, but from trailers, grow facilities, the immaculate conception that happens with the seeds and coming across state line. It's been a wild ride, but I'd say that only lasted a few years and everybody was in a proper facility, but everybody had multiple variations in grow facilities.
Interesting. So you said that Martin Hood specializes in agriculture, cannabis, and what else?
Well, we specialize in a lot. My specialty was agriculture, cannabis, and more emerging markets. So anytime you see any type of growth in area outside of crypto, I have Tom. I have not jumped heavy into crypto myself. We do crypto from the tax side, but as a consultant I have not. I've been busy growing the cannabis and the ag space and institutional ag portfolio rather than crypto, but I do have partners in it here at MH.
Yeah, I would say that it's a force to be reckoned with. And I would expect, and maybe you could speak to this a little bit, is I would be interested in understanding what the connectivity actually might be, since it seems like banking, crypto is a great tool for the unbanked, as they say. Certainly worldwide, there's a lot more of that going on. There's certain chains and whatnot that really, cater to that. And I believe there are some crypto focused cannabis chains as well. So certainly there's opportunities there. I think it's really a question of mindset. And look, you're already in a difficult environment just because you're doing cannabis. So why not? Why not add crypto to your life, right?
Yes, we do have practice in complex areas, that's for sure. And yeah, you're right. I'm starting to see it more and more in cannabis or be talked about. But you did mention the unbanked, and Crystal, you mentioned taking cash. One thing I forgot to mention is early on in 2015, especially in Illinois, we started a program due to the needs of my clients and hearing what, being on site, seeing their operations, seeing them struggle, and using those either credit unions or state chartered banks with not a lot of service and high fees. So we started working with the financial institutions and the OCC and the regulators and saying, what do we need to see in these files to bank my clients? So we also started down that route. I'll stop here because I see Anthony's got his hand up.
I have my virtual hand. Hey guys, this is great, Jeff. I'm loving this so far. And I've got a question for you. I got a few questions, but I'll start with relatively straightforward question. You mentioned one of the areas you like to focus on is risk mitigation, which is such an important and overlooked feature of any business, especially in cannabis. And I'm wondering, from your point of view, what are the biggest risks your ag clients, let's make it more specific and say your cannabis ag clients prioritize when it comes to risk mitigation strategies, and how do these risks directly impact their bottom line?
Well, it obviously affects the bottom line greatly, even if it's threats that don't even come to fruition. If you look at ADM, Archer Daniels Midland, all they did was put their CFO on hold there for a while as suspicions rise and there's some claims against him. They lost 2.2 billion in valuation in one day. That is ADM. So that is the type of risks you want to avoid. As a lot of our clients become public company MSOs and diverse cap tables, or plan for that day when they can be on the US markets, you got to protect against the shareholder value. And so one of the items that we plan, or we are rolling out, it's in test phase now, a service, is a comprehensive risk-based model and approach that combines behavioral sciences, legal expertise, and assurance work. And it works, on the fiduciary side of protecting shareholder value, mitigating those risks, so that you can protect those fiduciaries and grow your share value. So I think that is a unique perspective that we have, that is new, a new behavioral science that's unique, integration with legal, behavior science and assurance that nobody has. But I'm suspecting it'll catch on with in-house counsel, external counsel, as you see these lawsuits come to fruition, both in cannabis and outside of cannabis.
The behavioral science issue, I think, is very interesting. It's not often talked about in this context, so I'm intrigued, and I'd love to hear more about what that looks like on the ground in some of these businesses. How are you observing behavior and planning to mitigate risks that could come from early indicators?
Yeah, here at MH, we have a strategic partnership with a behavioral specialist. That is what we do. And I have actually used it in-house at our own firm. And so taking a accounting firm from first gen to second gen is damn near impossible. And if you look at it, about 85–90% of them fail. That's why you see all these mergers, consolidations, sales. We were only able to pull that off because of pulling the right resources behaviorally as well. And because I always, and I think I told Crystal this before, but I'd say most of your business decisions are weighted heavily on the emotion side. The logics, everything else is there. But when it comes time to pull the trigger, sign that piece of paper, I mean, emotions take hold. So if you get there and you feel comfortable about your decisions and clarity on your focus on where you're going, I think that's majority of the battle. The rest of it's the legalese and the numbers and the values. So I think it's unique. I think that's where we're going. I think you'll start seeing it in other areas of practice. And it's something that hasn't really been created or used widely in the CPA world. And being CPAs, we're really the only industry that can give a third-party independent opinion. And so that adds a credibility layer to it. So you're not just hiring a behavior specialist. You're actually quarterly coming in, making sure as a board of directors or in-house counsel that we are doing what we can to raise shareholder value, comfort, and protect the organization.
Can I throw another follow-up question on that to you? A little bit of a curveball. When we think of business and making decisions in business, oftentimes it seems to be like it should be a logical process. That logic leads to, prudent business decisions. However, I've learned, especially after having children, that being sensitive to your environment also can really have a great impact on the decisions that you make. So how in the behavioral science aspect, how can business owners incorporate their emotional side and their logic side to make the best decisions possible?
Now that's you hit it on the head, Anthony. That is exactly what happens. I am not part of that process except for the assurance side. So the behavioral specialist goes in and they have a schedule where they have a program, a long step program where they go through everything from individual personality assessment to fiduciary duties. And without getting deep into the process, because that's not where I'm certified, that is what they're looking at. I'm talking from an experience level, going through it from the other side, hiring that done for myself in our firm, and to get a commonality of goals, to understand each other and our different behaviors and emotional states, and to get that aligned towards that strategic goal is huge. and not only in a partnership, but I mean, a public company. And so I think that is where we're going with it. That is my experience with it. And it's not a once and done. I would suggest it's at the minimum annual, if not quarterly. And if you have a large transaction coming up or you anticipate one, I would encourage that service as well.
That's great. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, Dean, go ahead.
No, Matt, please. Oh,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, along the risk mitigation kind of thought line, how do you guys incorporate and manage through the technology, right? Using that to help mitigate risk, and there's lots of things that are an afterthought in most kind of industries. So maybe I'll pause there.
No, that's great, Dean, because that is something we do have to add to it. Right now, we're focused more on the individual themselves and the behavior, not necessarily from that service, from a technology side. Now, when we're doing consulting and assurance work, we definitely take into account the technology side, risk controls, data manipulation, everything in that side. And as you know, Dean, and I probably have a question for you later, is my clients are starting to ask about ESG and start tracking allergens as they prepare to get more like a normal consumer good with the change in political expected. And so with that, I'd say the technology side and the needs that I hear the most are around, how do we track those allergens? What do we see as ESG requirements coming down the road, and how do we accumulate that data and without being too burdensome on operations?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to have that conversation. And I think there's a technology and behavioral kind of come together. Part of the healthy element of any security posture is kind of an education and testing thought, phishing training, and the various ethical hackers, that sort of thing. Oh, you click here, oops, hey, we caught you, by the way, see that, stuff like that. So there's ways to help organizations that they can really shore up, right? It's all about the various steps that you take to secure an environment: physical, technological, behavioral, with policy. It's just all the things, right? And they become important as you start to think about how they can impact insurance, right? That, everybody knows today you need to have cyber insurance. What often is overlooked is the steps you have to take to make sure that insurance is enforced, right? That you don't invalidate,
yes,
right? So there's a lot of consideration that we often help. Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially, we started with kind of the D&O insurance side for the behavioral science work that we're doing. So it's the same background, but then you're taking it a step further into the technology, which is just a natural growth of that service. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
I mean, the worst thing in the world, right, is to have somebody think they have some protection either with their security posture or with insurance, and then they find out, well, because we don't have MFA, or because we didn't do this, or we didn't do that, this policy won't apply, and now I've got this huge exposure that could end my business, right? And so
yes,
it's all part of providing that expertise that you do to your clients, just to make sure we think about those things, make sure everybody's taken care of the way they ought to be.
Well, and Crystal, I mean, we started out talking about how I got into it and just doing basic controls, and now we're all the way on the other spectrum of getting ready for, the stock market and how to protect shareholder value and behavior science. So it's been a fast 10 years. And not that we don't, I mean, we still do the setup for new license holders for off the ground. But it's just, I just caught that in our discussion here. We went all the way from startup to looking at behavioral science like that. So that was a quick jump.
I'd be interested to know from your end, like, what sort of tax planning strategies do you use? And then also what was the number one problem that you found that you weren't expecting over the last 10 years?
Okay, tax strategies, I'll keep that one fairly short because I have never been a tax CPA, and tax focused. But I do have, I have great tax partners that are focused in different areas of cannabis, of agriculture. So most of it's around the working with the tax attorneys on tax structure. Most of it is along with tax compliance, as you all have probably read with the Trulieve filing for the refunds on 280E. My team is busy today reviewing those documents, reviewing our own stance, consulting with our own clients on why they should or should not get into the same stance as Trulieve, and answering those questions. So from a tax perspective, I hand that over. We're specialized enough that we're in different swim lanes, but we partner a lot in obviously that data, because I'll need to know as well from not only tax planning strategies, but also anything I find out on the consulting or assurance gap side that I have to produce. So, and as far as the challenge or thing I wasn't expecting, it's probably going down to the basics. I mean, it's talent acquisition, both internally at our firm. We've been lucky. We're way ahead of the curve nationally on hiring talent, on retaining talent, and building people knowledgeable in the industry. But I would say I have a lot of recurring cannabis clients in the assurance and consulting practice, and this year is surprising how many are not ready. And here it is, March 1st, and they all have CPAs that have come and gotten, CFOs, controllers, outsourced, you name it. And that is a real issue as this industry matures, gets closer to being open, descheduled. They're behind the eight ball a little bit for planning, because I think these companies have to start thinking of how do we operate more as a consumer product good, not only from a brand perspective and marketing perspective, but that back office is going to kill them if they don't get this in line in a hurry. There's a few that are gold stars. Obviously, the large ones that we work with have 42 CPAs, whatever. I mean, they got it under control. But a lot of your mid-level, large private, they got a ways to go. So that's been a surprise.
I think it's one of like business truths, right, across industry. I mean, certainly here, the way this industry has grown, right, the way it started and where it's more mainstream, more focused, but every industry, every business that wants to graduate has these problems, and these, there's a little bit of uncharted territory here for sure, but still the organizational maturity to take them on exists always, right? And it's something where I think as professionals in our respective areas of expertise, we can help assist even outside our swim lane, just with providing some guidance and some structure and some advice to say, hey, we do this for you. Make sure your technology is right, you're protected, whatever. But by the way, right, you have to think about all these things. Many states have energy managing and status requirements and reporting, right? And so it's like, that's a huge space here that would be impactful as those regulations change and update. And so the wherewithal and the organizational maturity to handle it is really an adventure for businesses.
Well, absolutely, Dean. And I think one of the fun parts of being in this industry, even because it started early on, everybody was collaborating, everybody's talking. It wasn't that weird competition where you kept it so tight. And so one of the reasons I'm here today is because of Crystal and your vast network and the show here, and you guys have quality introductions and advisors that you've introduced me to, and vice versa. So I appreciate that. I mean, that's what we're doing here today. I might not know the answer, but I'm going to know somebody that probably will get you an answer.
That's funny. I approach it the exact same way, man. It's about having the connectivity to the resources and the appropriate experts to bring to bear to support and really leave everybody better than when they started.
I'd also just I'd throw in there too, like not only quality introductions, but I'd say too, like we can all be introduced to a lot of people, but if those people are horrible people, we don't want anything to do with them. So I appreciate the quality introduction of like-minded people that share the same passions first and foremost. So, and then I'd also ask real quick, Jeff, sorry, Anthony, do you get involved at all in the political side and kind of pushing agendas and that sort of thing?
Yeah, Matt, lately, not as much. I would say early on in Illinois, I got pulled in a lot because if you looked at the clients we were serving out of Chicago, which are now industry leaders, they had a diverse group and a large group of counsel. That counsel would utilize us at times, pull us in or out of lobbyist meetings. So yes, I've been in Springfield, Illinois before it was legal, with lobbyists, with a financial institution, to try to get them to bank, with a few of the Chicago MSOs. And it led to, in 2017, presented to a congressional hearing, and then sat on numerous panels in industries, both our industry, CPA, Illinois CPA Society, AICPA, but also in cannabis industry as well. But I'd say as of late, most of it has been reactionary on financial institution side, and or when requested by my clients. But 2015 to 2018, those 3 years, we were pretty active in front of politicians, lobbyists, and in some hearings, and quite a few.
That process is incredible. I've got a client that does a lot of canvassing and advocacy for a myriad of things, right? They're involved in ballot measures in Colorado here and getting things approved, and just the machine that's involved in that is it's incredible. And you know, whatever you think about, like it or hate it or whatever, I appreciate the fact that they get out to the communities, right? To get input, right? These things don't happen because nobody wants it. Right. So it's bringing the people, I think, a voice there. So I'm always amazed every time they tell me about whatever, right? They set offices across the country, or where campaigns are needed and stuff like that, and just all the things they do. And of course I help them with all their tech, but just the process to go through is really cool. Matt, are you involved in any of that type of thing, or just curious? Or
I'm not involved on the political side, or no one wants me testifying, apparently.
I share that, Matt. I don't think CPAs are the best testifiers, but yeah, yeah, I think a lot of the questions didn't apply to me, so I was lucky, at least in that sense.
I do not recall, Senator.
Right. Right.
That's funny.
Can I jump
Okay,
in?
Mr. Pino, yes.
Okay, so on this tip, and I could be early on this question, but I'll go for it anyway, because it does feel like as time ticks, we're getting closer to decriminalization at a federal level and dismantling federal prohibition. And I guess, what would an early indicator, either politically or fundamentally, be that CPAs and operators are looking for before beginning to prepare to transition their operational strategy for federal decriminalization and dismantling prohibition? But before you go there and answer that question, there's two other questions that go with that. The second one would be, what would likely be the most directly impacted side of their business, operationally speaking, and how would a cannabis operator look to prepare for those changes?
Yeah, I mean, that one's a difficult one, but I like going back to our earlier conversation on kind of thinking about it as a normal, I don't want to say consumer products company, but I mean, to get in line, there's so many multifacets to that question, because you're producing a product, you know, food, pharmaceutical, whatever, to the masses. You want brands, so you got marketing. You want to build back office, so your controls and perspective is, and your data that Dean's been talking about is able to support, which will be requirements on, you know, food reporting, allergens, to get FDA approval, to get ESG for investors and maybe federal government requirements or state government requirements eventually. And so you got everything from back office to front office to talent acquisition. Yeah, regardless of the legislation, decriminalization, Safer Banking Act, FDA approval. I mean, all of that has to happen. But in addition to that, we need to get these companies up and running as if they're a less regulated commercial entity, consumer
a real
product
business
company.
venture,
Yes.
right? It's not a
Yes.
hobby, and it's back to that organizational maturity. And I use that term intentionally because in every industry you have great chefs that don't know how to run a business that's grown because they are great chefs. You have great, right? It stands in any vertical, right? And so
Yes.
it's really providing the resources and the coaching so these folks that have particular expertise also get the business needs squared away
Yes.
and managed appropriately.
And Dean, that's important too, because when I visit my clients and I'm one that loves to see the operations. It helps me understand, helps them make sure they're comfortable with me and I understand how their business works. And you get into something as simple as like inventory costing structure for a CPA, and that's important, obviously, to ADE and everything. But the vast variance and of grow facility of even between the same entity, the same MSO, the same whatever, they may have different types of facilities, different type of grow tactics from one to the other. They may be not as efficient in one area as another. Could be as like packaging and shipping versus production. But they need to standardize a lot in addition to talent acquisition in the back office, standardize a lot, technology improvements. And the ones that do that, invest in that, I guess, less attractive at this point area, I think that hockey stick's going to be a little faster because they're going to be able to put people at ease. They're going to be able to be a little more visible on their operations and able to raise more funds.
Putting yourself in position to grow the right way. I mean, ask anybody that's been in through any M&A of any sort, right? There is a wrong way to do it. You know, there's more than one right way, but there are certainly a lot of wrong ways too, right? And it's just having that mindset and that thought and being willing to reach out to areas that are not the center scope because you have recognition that they're important.
And it's difficult with our own industry. I mean, you know, Big Four probably won't touch it until it's completely federally decriminalized. And even then, there's going to be a lot of CPAs in the industry that still won't due to stigma or certain areas of the country. And it's just how our industry is shaped and who goes into it. But when you're talking everything from a startup to agriculture to food processing, pharmaceutical, retail, family office, private equity, and a public company, and multi-exchanges, IFRS in Canada, GAP in US. I mean, it's a very complex industry for CPAs. And so if you're not passionate about it, you probably shouldn't dip your toe in it, and because it's going to eat you alive. I always like to say I'm like 32 years old, but I'm joking because it's cannabis, you know, ages you fast.
Can I go back to something Matt had mentioned earlier, Mr. Evans? You asked about tax planning, and I'm wondering what are some tax strategies that you're using for cannabis tax planning?
So I think obviously the issue with the cannabis is the banking, right? And so there is things you can do on the reinsurance side that you can show cannabis companies how to get out up to 2.8 million or 15% of their gross revenues through reinsurance. There's some stuff you can also do on the trust side for taxes as well. But I'd say the reinsurance is probably number one because anyone can do it right now, and you don't have to worry about, you know, will Schwab or will Fidelity or will whomever take your money. But, you know, obviously 2.8 million is a pretty good chunk of change at a 4% rate instead of current tax rates of wherever their state is, 20, 30, 40.
And I will say we've we've worked really hard on the banking end with some nationally chartered banks. So if there is needs in that area, because that's another thing to plan for the future when it is decriminalized. Well, if you already have an established relationship with a national bank that can provide those traditional services and loans and expansion across state lines, you're ahead of the game. You already have that established relationship. They already have your information. They can roll right into other services once First Data accepts the cards, once you need a real estate loan, et cetera. So please contact me if that happens, because we have multiple banks online that we work and have helped design compliance as well for those financial institutions.
Got another
Okay.
question. Since you're deep in the numbers with a lot of these companies, how have you seen cost of capital change in the last 12 months, and where do you see it going over the next 12 months?
Well, M&A has slowed greatly for us. And I'd say I don't even remember if it's 2020, 21, one of those years, by March 1st, this day, I probably had 42 calls of M&A deals. And that was like during the lockdown phase of COVID. So I'm on the phone just pacing in my office, the only one here, because everybody's at home, and taking call after call after call. Today, I think I have maybe 2 going, and expect neither of those to actually get to deal because of the valuation. The valuations being down in certain states, the amount of operation losses that they're sustaining is just wild. I didn't expect it to go on this long without being decriminalized. I'm not sure anybody did that jumped in that deep, but the vast losses of investing in an expansion, trying to do what's right, getting ready for it, and then now you have to go back and fundraise because you just burnt up 50 million of capital in 1 or 2 years. That's a steep climb. So I'm not seeing a lot of the deals. I'm not seeing, as far as cap tables, it's getting a little deeper into the family office, maybe, I don't want to say venture capital, but unlikely sources versus a lot of the original investors are kind of getting tired right now, and or holding strong, but not increasing, not doubling up.
That's interesting. I wonder, you're talking about operational losses, and I'm going to assume for a moment that that has a lot to do with why valuations are down. And maybe that doesn't directly affect the cost of capital, but does impact the owners of the company, the shareholders of the company. And I wonder, as companies look to expand into new markets that they're not native to, are there certain characteristics of a locale, municipality, state, and their laws and regulations which are better for, avoiding steep operational losses or delays in federal prohibition going away?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not an expertise on that end, but what I would say is I've witnessed it greatly with investment into certain states, West Virginia, Oklahoma, that then they sell off. It was a bad idea due to how many licenses were obtained, how they were obtained, lack of regulation, the structure, and so which drives the values down. And so it really depends on state by state how that's regulated, is what I'm seeing on and then your competitive landscape as well. And there's still a bit of betting on politicians, and that's risky. I mean, you're betting on politicians to change. I mean, you got a Florida ballot coming up in November, which is going to be absolutely huge. But where's it going to land? I don't know if I want to take that bet, but yeah, I have clients that have taken that bet, so I hope it lands well for them. But I think that's what you see, and so you see variations in valuations, and I was telling Crystal that east of the Mississippi, we probably have more than west of the Mississippi on cannabis holdings. But part of that's intentional because of those valuation drops, the ability of my clients to pay us because operational losses out west, the competition, the black market still out west is worse. So I think the highly regulated states on the East Coast and somewhat Midwest have actually worked in our benefit.
Interesting. Thank you.
Tom, you had a question?
I certainly do. So, Jeff, in a prior life long ago, I encountered perhaps my favorite mentor. He was a CPA, actually comes from the Big Six accounting world, and he took me under his wing. And although I was a technology guy and focused completely on technology, he was a huge corporate governance guy. And so he made it my mission to make sure that I was aligned in terms of not only how technology was viewed, but also managing risk, right? So I got a huge indoctrination early on in my career on this idea of, yes, corporate governance is key, but more importantly, the line people, directors and whatnot, have to be super laser focused on managing risk. Yes. So I would imagine that you have one or two things you might want to have to say about this topic.
Well, first, I'd like to call on Dean and Tom both, sometime as we're building this practice out, because and pull from your experience and technology side as well, because I think that could be valuable. While it's new for us and going through it, it's absolutely important. The governance structure, yes, is important, but managing risk is probably the single most effective use of focus of employees, focus of strategic management, and in value of your company rise. And how you do that, who does it, at what level, what mindset, what controls are around in place, and who's following those is what we want to build out in our testing. So you'll have that behavioral science. You'll have that legal side with governance and the structure. And then you'll have the attest side, which is basically making sure and going in and saying, yes, they are following what they should, or no, they should, or no, they're not. And reporting that to the board or in-house counsel or the CEO. Because that could be anything from lack of fiduciary duties. It could be anything from financial or sexual misconduct. It could be a wide variety. And if you go back to, I think it was MJ Biz in 22, one of their articles was talking about D&O insurance and the risk as these companies become public and get larger. And nobody's really addressing that side of it in this way. They'll say, oh, we have good controls, or we have in-house counsel, but there's a lot of areas. So I think you're going to see some more lawsuits pop up, and not that I would prefer to do it on the front end and be more proactive on how do we raise enterprise value of the company by putting this in place and shareholder comfort and investor comfort than to be reactionary and go after it after lawsuits.
Yeah, well, I would say that I had drilled into my head, into my skull on a regular basis, the idea that if you sit there and say that our controls are sufficient, that I'm going to get a beating. Okay. So, it was the whole idea, the mantra became is, yes, we're doing great. What can we do better? And if you didn't come into your annual, strategic planning meeting or a steering committee meeting with something new or something tangible that could move the ball forward in terms of managing risk, because every business faces new risk every day, right?
Absolutely.
So it's a huge education thing.
I know if I was in-house counsel for one of those companies, I would much rather have this report from us saying, this is what we're doing to go above and beyond, than to say, what have you done? Why didn't you catch this? What is happening to, XYZ? So yes, it's be proactive. Think about it ahead of time.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys. Those are great comments, great questions. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Jeff, thank you for joining us and coming and being our guest speaker. Can you please let everyone know where to reach you at?
Yeah, I mean, probably the easiest way is just martinhood.com. martinhood.com, or find me on LinkedIn, any social media from our firm. You can get email and all the social media connections that way. But I'd love to talk to you. Growing my network is a passion as well. And Crystal and Alan, your company's helping me, and I appreciate that, Crystal.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, thank you very much. I think we all help grow and elevate each other. So we appreciate you as well. With that being said, we hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Alan to do a quick close in prayer.
All right, let's bow our head and close in prayer. Thank you, everyone. Dear God, thank you so much for another wonderful, amazing show at Crypto Cannabis. Thank you for Tom being here, and Jeff as our guest speaker, and Matt and everyone else that are here today among us to help each other, inspire each other, and grow in this industry of cannabis PA. We know that your hands are in work, and you continue to bless us in every single way, knowing that you're putting the right people in the right place at the right time. And we love you, God, and we can't wait to see how we can continue to grow together in the body of Christ. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.